Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a brand new tank. Yes, we have the new 122 TM, the 122 TM. It is a Chinese medium tank in tier 8. Now, this tank, the stats on paper looks better than it actually is. Now we're going to have a look at the stats. Now it is actually a 120mm gun that it is using, not a 122, which I think is kind of weird, but I know nothing about the tanks. I've got no idea. So the hit points 1450, not too bad for a medium in tier 8. The turret armor 210, which is pretty good for a medium, and the hull is 125. So armor profile wise, not too shabby. DPM 2036, which is low, but going by the gun, the 120mm, if you compare it to things like the T-34-3, it is pretty much the same. It's actually more DPM, a little bit more DPM than that. Penetration 203, and on your heat 270. So again, for the type of gun it is, it's not bad penetration at all. Especially the heat isn't bad. Now I run this with the rammer, because I don't want to lose any more DPM being a medium tank. But it's up to you. You can run it with calibrated shells if you wish to get the penetration even more. It has 400 alpha on your APCR, 340 on your heat, and 500 on your HE. 3.6 aim time, and your dispersion 0.353, and it does have 7 degrees of gun depression. So the dispersion aim time not great, to be honest, and the speed 45, but it doesn't feel like 45. Your average is 30, so in fact it's actually quite slow. Play it like a heavy tank. That's the only really advice I do have for this this tank. Here is the armor profile. Now if you look at the armor profile, you can see there is a lot of spaced armor on the sides, on the tracks. Like, it's covered in spaced armor. So of course, people shooting heat at you or HE heat's just gonna splash and do nothing, and HE will do minimal damage. So if you're coming up against something like a T-49 or a Vindicator or anything like that, just show them your tracks. Just show them your tracks, and then turn your turret like that, and hopefully they will bounce. But for a medium tank, like, on paper, this is so much better than it is in game. And you can see the turret here, you've got on the right side there 217 on the orange bit. Of course, you've got the red bit 240. You've got another bit there, and which is yellow, and it's still effective 441mm of armor. You do, however, have 2 hatches. You have a little section there, but the hatch itself is around 245mm. So it's still going to be a difficult pen. And you got this side, on the left side, 688mm of effective armor. You got the upper plate 209, and of course you got the gun mantlet, which is impenetrable. So using the sort of the 7 degrees of gun depression as well, you've got good armor. You have really, really good armor for what the tank is. It's a medium tank, and you kind of forget that. But we're going to go and show you some battles in the game now. It's like I said, when I looked at the stats and compared it with other tanks, I thought, you know what, this isn't actually too bad. The stats don't seem too bad, but yeah, it just feels sluggish. It does feel sluggish. Armor profile does work if you go and hold down, and if you're side scraping or face hugging or side hugging tanks, you can get those bounces. But of course, the DPM, you can't really go brawling against other mediums, because you will lose on DPM. They do have much more DPM than you. Even medium tanks in tier 7 has more DPM. 2000 DPM is nothing special at all. And when I looked at that, and I thought that's pretty bad. But again, comparing it to the tanks like the T-34-3 with the same kind of gun, the STG, yeah, it's got a little bit more. I think they have around 1,900 DPM, where this has 2,000, just over 2,000. Of course, the aim time is nothing special. The dispersion is nothing special, and it kind of feels like, at first when I was playing this, like I played the tank before I even looked at the stats. So I had a few games in the tank, and then just to see how it plays, and then I had a look at the stats just to see how good the tank is or how bad the tank is. And I have to admit, when I was playing it, I really didn't think anything special of the tank, but when I looked at the stats, I thought, you know what, this shouldn't be playing too bad. And like I said, on paper, the stats isn't too bad at all. Played correctly, the tank won't be too bad. But is it worth getting? Of course not. Of course it is not worth getting right now, because it is for sale for crates. And even when the tank next comes for sale, it's going to come for sale for probably like 12k gold. It probably isn't worth that either. I would probably pay about 8,000 gold for this. But yeah, you need to play it to the tank's advantage, the tank's strengths, and the strength, it literally is that armor profile. As you can see, we're bouncing. Of course, it is only a Chiri. Next to us, we've got the Tiger P down there as well, so nothing really too crazy. Angled, of course, if you're using the 7 degrees of gun depression, you can get bounces on your turret, and you can get bounces on your hull, but you can't really rely too much on your hull. Just over 100 millimeters, but yeah, you can angle that. It is quite sloped as well, so on the upper plate you will be able to get some bounces. And as we can see here, this Chiri is having a hard time when we're face hugging him or side hugging him, and he can't really do too much. But as soon as we back up and he gets outside, you can see he does penetrate. Now the tank itself has spaced armor all around the sides, you can see the side skirts here. That is spaced armor. So if you're coming up against tanks like the T49 and Vindicator that only really has HE and heat, make sure you show them your side, because yes, heat's gonna bounce, heat's gonna splash and do nothing, it's gonna absorb, and the HE is just going to do splash damage. Yes, it's still going to do a little bit of damage, but it's not going to do too much. Now, the only downfall I would say with this tank is that speed. I would like to have seen it a little bit more. Even with a little bit more speed, I definitely won't be saying go get the tank, because it's crates. But it's kind of balanced. It is kind of balanced tank. It's nothing too bad. It's nothing too great. Definitely not overpowered. It is kind of balanced, and that's pretty much all the tank is. It's just balanced. So yeah, you can see not too bad. We had easy damage that game, if I'm quite honest, but we still managed to get a still wall. We still managed to bounce 7 shots there, even if it was against a Chiri. So overall, it's not a crazy tank. It's not a bad tank. There's not too many complaints about the tank. The only complaint I really have is that speed. I would have liked it 45 kilometers an hour, but average 30. I would have liked for it to just be a little bit quicker, because being a medium tank, you do kind of forget it is a medium tank because of how slow it can be, and the gun, of course, and the armor profile. So how do you play it? Now, of course, because you are a medium tank, you don't quite have the armor to go with the heavies, but you do have the armor to deal with medium tanks. So definitely a support tank. It's a support your medium tanks. Go with your mediums if you can, and just sit behind them and just sort of get the damage. Maybe get in front of them if they're with you, but just support your medium tanks. Don't be front line if you're on your own. Don't just rush in. You can't really just rush in anyway, because you don't have the speed. But yeah, be with your mediums, help your mediums out, and be their armor, and that's pretty much all you can do. You can do it with the heavies as well if you sit with your heavies, but you have the same kind of DPM as the heavies. So it's really, it's a medium tank. Play it like a medium tank, but don't front line. Don't front line in this tank. Be with your mediums and just support them. And for me, that's how I found best to play this tank. And you can see here, we're going to go now. We couldn't really support our mediums because everyone went this way. So now we're just going to go and support our heavies. And of course, when you do come up against tanks like the Object 252U, you are going to struggle to penetrate them. You can hit the lower plate, But your armor profile is basically a heavy as well. It's basically just over 200 millimeters on your turret, and that is the same with a lot of tier 8 heavy tanks, and the same as your hull. You've got just over 100 millimeters of your hull. Now the Object 252U, the lower plate, the hull has around the same. So play it like a medium, play it like a heavy, do what you want, however you want to really play it, but I definitely wouldn't be front line. I'd be behind your team, either behind your team or with them. And if you're going with the mediums, of course, be close to them, because you're not a quick tank. And if you're going to come up against these tanks like the RU-251s, fast tanks, then they will be able to circle you. They will be able to get around you very, very easily. So it is best to have that support from your medium tanks. So unfortunately for our T-34 here, he is dead, but at this point it is a pretty much game over. It's 5 versus 3 now. The Charioteer up there is a one shot. Stupidly, I think I hit the gun there on the T-34, which is my mistake, but it doesn't matter too much. We're on 2,500 damage, and it is just this object, and you can see here just how bad it is to try and penetrate this guy, and hopefully our guys do manage to clear these. He's a one shot. As it happens, we're going to back up, we are going to reload, and we're going to try and shoot him with a HE, but he just gets taken out before we manage that. So 2,800 damage, nothing special. I don't think this is going to be a tank where you do anything special. Credit wise, it's decent. 2,800 for 72,000 credits, not bad at all. Overall, it's a nice tank, but in certain aspects with the armor, it is completely balanced. So don't ever think you're going to get an overpowered tank here with the 122 TM. It is far from that, but I do like Wargaming how they have balanced it. It is balanced 100%. But for now, just maybe go play the T-34-3. I do think the T-34-3 is better. Doesn't quite have the gun depression that the 122 has got, but you know, it is crates after all. So because it is tier 8, it's crates. I would always suggest to stay away from the tank for now. So if you do get it, you know, just play it however you decide to play it, but just be careful, because you don't have that DPM and you don't have that speed. So always remember that. Yes, you are a medium, but also you're kind of a heavy tank as well. So just support your team, be second line and support, and just scare. Like, I like scaring the mediums. People don't know how to deal with this tank yet, so people are going to struggle for the first few weeks, because they're not going to know the tank. It wasn't tested on EU or NA as a normal tester, and Wargaming have pretty much just straight sold it. So no one really knows how to deal with the tank at the moment. No one knows that it's spaced armor along the sides. So yeah, so the first few weeks is going to be easy to play, as long as you can go hold down, side scrape, do everything that you need to do, and you should be all right. But as I've said, just don't buy the tank for now, because it's not worth the crates. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I will catch you all soon. Bye bye. With